tax policy change that impacts even a really small percentage of donors, that change can have a really significant impact, and we know that it would impact United Way pretty dramatically.
High-income people tend to give very generous gifts. If you cap their deduction at $50,000, they may do a lot less of that. That generates a lot less revenue for the government, and of course it also generates a lot less money for the charities.
And again, it gets back to people having disposable income, whether it's for charitable things or for other things. I mean, Charles, and if you couple that, if any of these, cuts along these lines did happen, we're at a time when people are more in need than ever before. We have more people on food stamps and government assistance than ever before. So charitable need is up, but with, the possible outlook of charitable giving going down.
Look, that's the major argument to retain the deduction, because there are so many institutions that need and give and do, and this helps them. But there's another argument that I think is overlooked, which is all the other deductions and credits are ways for the government to influence you, exert its power over you. For example, to buy a house instead of renting because of the mortgage deduction. Charitable is the only one that's the opposite. Charitable is the one where the government, where you choose where the money is to go, and the government is sort of adding power to your choices. So it's strengthening all the institutions that Fred had mentioned, the churches and the research institutions, the universities, the Rotary clubs. And these are all the institutions of civil society that stand between the government and the individual. So whereas the growth of big government over a century has diminished all of these institutions and marginalized them, these are the institutions that are the ones that are sort of the little platoons that stand up against the government. So I mean, despite the fact that we have to do a lot of cutting of deductions, the only one I would protect entirely and exempt it from any of these cuts would be the charitable, because it's precisely the thing that in essence drains some of the power out of big government and allows individuals to choose what institutions of civil society it wants to actually empower. I'd keep it for only that reason, as well as the reason, of course, that the institutions that help the needy will need.
Now, something else that is on the table, the president's health care law, and this is coming from a number of folks saying it's such a huge driver of the economy as it's fully implemented that it has to be up for negotiation. House Speaker John Boehner wrote an op-ed on this and said the president's health care law adds a massive, expensive, unworkable government program at a time when our national debt already exceeds the size of our country's entire economy. We can't afford it, and we can't afford to leave it intact. That's why I've been clear that the law has to stay on the table as both parties discuss ways to solve our nation's massive debt challenge, although he also has said recently it is the law of the land. Where does he go with this, Charles?
Nowhere. He's right in everything he writes about. It's a disaster, but there's no way it's going to be stopped. It was an issue that the country had decided in this election. Obama staked a claim and he won. Supreme Court was the only other way it was going to be stopped. It wasn't stopped. It's not going to be stopped now. The idea that through oversight committees in the House you're going to stop this is absurd. Look, I think he's right. It's going to be disastrous. It should be cut back or dismantled, but, elections have consequences, and this is one. So I think it's not on the table. Republicans can pretend it is, but it's not. There's a lot of other stuff on the table, and that's rates. And I think that if you want to plant a flag, you plant it on rates, not on Obamacare.
Look, the fight is on, not to repeal, but certainly to change the law.
But it's Washington that will decide what's going to be traded to avoid the fiscal cliff, and I can guarantee you that Obamacare will not be involved in those negotiations.
Time and time again, our associates conclude that, they don't need a union, that they've got a good deal working at Walmart. They appreciate the opportunities that we have at Walmart, and we appreciate our associates. I mean, we can't have a Black Friday event without our associates.
Pay is an issue for some of us, a lot of us, tired of living in poverty. A lot of us on food stamps. I can't live off that.
I don't know if I should go with my morals or just go with my need to have an income at the moment.
Charles, what do you make about this? We had expected or thought we would have a decision from the National Labor Relations Board at this point. Walmart, essentially filed an emergency petition saying we don't want this mass protest tomorrow. It doesn't meet with federal law, and we'd like it to stop. I'm shocked that the Democratic-heavy MLRB has not issued a ruling on Thanksgiving that might have gone against the picketers, and they are studiously collecting depositions and more information
so they can then issue a ruling on Monday, which, whatever it is, will be completely moot because the picketing will go on today and tomorrow. But I would like to reissue the safety warning I did yesterday.
Yes, do not.
Attention, Wal-Mart picketers, the only place more dangerous than to stand between an early morning shopper and the Black Friday bargains is to stand between Chuck Schumer and a camera. And that is known to be a very dangerous place.
Ouch.
But that's really, it's said in jest. What you have to understand about this is that the serious issue is that the picketers are required, if they're going to picket continuously, they are required over time to at least begin to file for unionization. And I think it's the absence of that which makes these potentially illegal.
Now, we want to leave on a positive note because it's Thanksgiving and we have very short time. So, Charles, what do you think for this year? We'll go around.
To be a native of this country, if you are, you won the lottery. 1 in 17 Earthlings is an American, and if you're born here, you're lucky. My father was born in Austria, my mother in Antwerp, and my brother in Rio. I'm the only one who had the luck to be a native of the United States. And when you are, you automatically are part of the most generous country on earth, the one that's liberated the most people ever. And that's as close to I mean, that's the secular equivalent of grace.
This has been a Sunfish production.